What is up, people? Van from the Vaniverse Gaming Channel here with another episode of Should I Buy? And then today we are covering the game Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. So Funcom, because I was a supporter of Conan Exiles, they gave me a free key to try it out. And also, if you click on the link in the description below, you can purchase the game from that link. And then if you use the code MUTANT, that will give you a 10% discount if you buy it through me. Obviously, all proceeds of that will help go towards my YouTube channel. You don't have to, but it'd be cool if you did. So let's get started here and talk to you guys about what Mutant Year Zero is. And basically, if I could best describe it, is XCOM and I would say Borderlands kind of had a baby, and it became Mutant Year Zero, Road to Eden. So basically, the story behind this is it's a post-apocalyptic time where everyone pretty much died from a plague, and there are a pack of people that are living in this place called the Ark, and they send out these people like me called stalkers to go out into the land and to forage for salvage goods in order to bring back to the Ark to keep it running. So the two stalkers you are giving to start the game are basically Boarman, and you got a little duck named Ducks. So you're half duck, half boar, half human, and you have special mutant powers that nobody else has. So you have the ability to go out into these lands that are full of these ghouls and try and harvest and salvage some metal so you can bring it back and take it to the Ark to be used. So how the game works is it's pretty much a free movement game, and then what happens is when you get into combat, then it goes into a turn-based combat similar to XCOM. The reason why it's similar to Borderlands is each of the classes have their own skill tree that you can build. You can see up in the top left-hand corner that I am currently level 1 with both my characters, and as you level up, you earn points, and then you can actually start putting points into specializations for each of the characters. So the combat's pretty simple. You can see right here with the tactical combat, you are given 2 turns, basically. You can do 2 things in a turn. And those 2 things can be move, reload your weapon, maybe throw a grenade, go into Overwatch mode where if somebody else's moves, you get a free shot on them, you can hide. But basically, certain abilities will actually cause you to not be able to use your second abilities, like shooting. So if you can see, once you have 2, you start with 2 abilities to use in a turn. If you are to fire a weapon, it will completely end your turn regardless of if you have another slot to do. So it behooves you to always reload and move and do all that previous to firing your weapon. And so you can see here, it basically is similar to XCOM, where it gives you a chance to hit, and then once you fire your weapon, if you hit, you kill them, and so on and so forth. So the game itself, some of the things I really like about the game is I really enjoy the story. I mean, basically you are 2 mutants that really don't know where you came from, how you got here, and the story is narrated by Boarman, the boar, and so it's kind of cool because he narrates the story from his perspective, and I really gotten into the story. I mean, normally in these types of games, I don't really listen too much to the story, but I found myself wanting to listen to the story and enjoying it play through the game. When you get to the combat aspect of the game, it has some nuances and stuff that XCOM doesn't have, and I have to tell you, I had a lot of fun with it. There are some issues with some camera angles pretty bad that depending on where you are in the zone and how your camera is faced, the camera angles can be pretty gnarly and hard to deal with. Some of the controls are a little wonky as well. People have complained about running into issues with the game not loading. I haven't had any problems like that. Some of the other things that I would mention about the game is I feel like some of the build options are very limited. So you can get up to 5 different characters throughout the game, and it seems like instead of them all having their own unique set of abilities, they all kind of share abilities. So like maybe one of Boarman's abilities is on another character and one of Duck's abilities is on another character. They all have their own abilities that's just theirs that nobody else shares. But then a lot of the other abilities, it looks like they just kind of rinsed and repeated those abilities. So that's kind of a disappointment. I really wish that it had a little bit more of a robust system when it comes to your mutations and building out your character. The leveling is kind of interesting as well. It doesn't feel like you level like 1, 2, 3, 4. It feels like the levels go up drastically. Like in a certain fight, you might gain 3 or 4 levels. It just feels strange. Like every time I look, I was level 1, and then all of a sudden I'm like level 10. And I don't really know how I got there. So it just feels like the leveling is really, really fast and could be slower. The map itself is pretty good. There's a lot of cool places to explore. It's just not big enough, and to me the game is just too short. I feel like the game could be longer, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Also in the combat, I've noticed that there are some the different gear that you get. So right here you can see my mutations and what I can choose from. The stats are obviously going to be the same on every character, but it's the mutations where some of those mutations are definitely shared across characters. But when it gets into like the gear, it's pretty simplistic. I feel like there's only so many weapons you start with. You can modify those weapons with 2 items, either a scope or an attachment, and the attachment can do things like critical chance, range, or chance to stun an electric thing like a machine. So sometimes you fight machines, and if you can put a little mod on your weapon, you can actually hit them with electricity. So I feel like even the gear is very limited. The amount of weapons you get, the varieties of weapons, they feel extremely limited to me, where I think they could have done a good job on giving you more options to choose from. And then still giving you a little bit more that you can scrap as well. And the same goes for the armor. So pretty much how your gear build out is that you basically have 2 slots for grenades. You can have a 3rd slot for a grenade. You have a slot for a piece of chest armor, a slot for a helmet armor, and then 2 slots for 2 different weapons to carry on you. And that's pretty much it. And then like up in the top right hand corner, you can see that you gain the first little icon is scrap. That's just stuff that you use in order to buy stuff from the shop. And then the second icon are these special artifacts that you get throughout the game that unlock another set of special abilities that your party can handle. But it's more of a universal thing, like more health to your med kits, more damage to your grenades, that kind of stuff. The third little circle up there on the top of the screen, that's going to be your health kits. So you can see I have 1 health kit. That's shared across all your party members. They don't have to have it in their inventory. It's just if you have health kits, you can use them. And then the 4th one that you would see up in the top right-hand corner, that is your weapon upgrade. So all of your weapons can be upgraded to level 1, 2, and 3. And then on top of the upgrades of level 1, 2, and 3, you can also add, like I said, the modification to it and the scope to it. And that's pretty much it. This game it's got a travel system that's pretty okay, like a lot of other games, that when you're on the world map, as long as you've unlocked the zone, you can travel to that zone freely. You don't have to run there or anything like that. And you can always travel back to the Ark in order to do all your cleanup and whatnot, buy weapons from the weapon vendor, get some artifact points at the bar, and then also modify your weapons. So it's pretty simplistic. The one great thing that this game has is, even though it's very simple, I really do enjoy the graphics and the atmosphere. Some of the levels feel a little bit like they're regurgitated, like they look the same, but they do have a couple levels generated that look completely different, like snow versus forest, or a little bit more fields. And the monsters are also very regenerated. I mean, once you fought one, you pretty much fought them all. There's not a lot of difference in the different monsters. There's some dogs, there's some tanks, there's some marauders. It gets very boring, like, okay, it's the same creatures we keep fighting over and over again. So that's another thing that I feel like they could have done better, is add a little bit more variety to the creatures that you see in the game. So if I were to kind of sum up the game and give you the pros and the cons, the best way that I would say that is pros. I really enjoyed the story. I like the narration from Borman. I like the way that it plays through. I was engaged all the way to the end of the game. 2, there is some humor to the game, the constant bantering back and forth. It's good. It's not fantastic, but it does add that level of entertainment that you get from the game. 3, I do enjoy the graphics. I feel like for this style of game, the graphics are really nice, and I really liked the different levels. 4, I think a positive to the game is the combat. I like XCOM. I really enjoyed the combat. I enjoyed some of the nuances, like using grenades that cause you to blow up like a floor and the people fall out of the building because you're destroying their cover. I enjoy a lot of those little idiosyncrasies with some of the weapons and stuff in combat. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that I really would say that I like in the game is I really do like how easy it is, but there's also a strategy to it as well. Like, there are certain creatures that you can't fight. You have to go around. So they're just too high level for you at that time. So there's a little bit of a sneakiness to it, where you can kind of sneak around. You can catch people out. That's part of the game as well, is finding a guy that's kind of not with everyone else and using some silent weapons and killing him before anyone notices. And then there's also a little bit of freedom to the game where you don't necessarily have to follow the path of the quest, of the main quest line. You can freely go and check out some other zones. Just be careful because things are a little bit higher. So all in all, I really did enjoy the game. So now let's talk about some of the cons and some of the things I didn't like about the game. I think the biggest problem with this game is how short it is. You know, the price tag on this game is pretty high. It's $34.99, I think, for the regular version. And the average time it's going to take you to beat the game on regular standard mode is about 15 to 20 hours. So to me, $1 an hour makes sense in my world, but I guess that's how I look at it. So, you know, if I'm spending 35 to 40 bucks, I want to get 35 to 40 hours of fun out of the game. And I just feel like I'm spending $35 for this game and getting 15 to 20 hours. I just don't think that that's worth that price. That doesn't mean that if there's a sale that you should absolutely buy it. And some people, money's different to you. Some people, for how good the game is, it's worth the 35 bucks. I mean, it's not 60 like some of these other games are, but it's also not a AAA game. This is made by a smaller company, the Bearded Ladies Consultants, and then Funcom is the publisher of the game. So just keep that in mind. The other negative about the game, like I said, is the combat and some of the camera angles. The camera is really wonky to control. Some of the controls just, they don't feel right. I haven't tried it on a controller. Maybe that's what it needs. It needs a little bit more, maybe it's better on a controller. But on the keyboard and mouse, it just feels a little weird, some of the controls and how they work and some of the camera angles. The other negative that, like I said, is I just feel like the game had a lot of potential and it kind of fell short with the customization. They could have done more with gear customization. They could have done more with weapon customization and how many you could get. They could have done more with the mutations and how many different mutations you could do. I just think that it felt rushed. It felt like this game could have been bigger, could have been a bigger map, could have been more in-depth like a Borderlands, and it just didn't get there. So that's just my opinion, but that's the other negative I see about the game. Other than that, there's really not much else I can say that's bad about the game. I really enjoyed the time I played. I just wish that there was more of it. So hopefully you guys like this review. Hopefully it was helpful. I am going to be making a new player's guide here soon and posting it up. It should be posted shortly after this video or tomorrow. And then that'll give you some really good tips and tricks about the game that I learned that would make it so much easier for a new player. So hope you guys stay tuned for that. So this is Van from the Vaniverse Gaming Channel. Hope you enjoyed this review of the game and whether you should buy it or not. At the end of the day, the game is worth the buy. I just don't think it's worth the buy at full price. $34.99 I think is too much for what you get from the game. But if this was on sale, which it most likely will go on sale eventually, totally worth it to buy this game on sale. So that's what I got to say on that. Leave your comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. This is Van from Vaniverse Gaming Channel. Thanks, cheers, and peace out.